What made Roman emperors never worry about the future? What did Epictetus mean when he said, "No one can make you angry unless you let them"? And why did Marcus Aurelius choose silence over arguing even when insulted? Marcus taught this one lesson: if you truly understand it, you will never be angry again. You walk through the stone courtyards of Rome at dusk. The air is heavy with incense from nearby temples. Soldiers march in rhythm on cobblestones, and a candle flickers in a quiet study where a philosopher writes his thoughts. Imagine the weight of that world: endless wars on the frontier, political rivals whispering in the Senate, betrayal from trusted friends. If anger was ever justified, it was in the life of Marcus Aurelius. And yet the emperor wrote that anger is a fire inside you that burns you first before it touches anyone else. He understood what few people dare to admit, that anger destroys its owner more than its target. Think of how anger feels inside you. Your chest tightens, your breath quickens, and words form in your mouth like arrows sharpened to wound. In those moments, you believe you are strong, yet the truth is you are shackled. The Stoics called anger a form of slavery. You are chained to the very person or event that provoked you. The insult, the disappointment, the delay, they hold your leash. The irony is that you lash out to feel powerful, but you only prove your dependence. Seneca once wrote that anger is a brief madness. He meant it literally. When you are angry, you abandon reason. You see only red, and history shows us where this madness leads. Kings have started wars for wounded pride, fathers have struck their sons in fits of rage, friends have severed lifelong bonds over one heated word. Think of Achilles in Homer's Iliad. His wrath, ignited by insult, led to countless deaths on the battlefield. His anger did not just burn inside, it set an entire war ablaze. Now contrast that with Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by enemies, betrayed by generals, even mocked for his philosophical writings. Marcus could have erupted, but he chose restraint. His journal, later titled Meditations, shows him coaching himself in the quiet of night. You will meet meddling, ungrateful, arrogant men today. They are like this because they cannot distinguish good from evil. Do you see, he expected human weakness, and therefore anger could not surprise him. He built his calm like a soldier sharpening his sword before battle. You might not endure this discipline easily. Picture yourself the last time you lost control: a rude driver cutting you off, a colleague dismissing your idea, a family member saying something unfair. Did your heart pound? Did you rehearse comebacks in your mind for hours afterward? The Stoics would ask, did that anger help you, or did it only extend the power of the insult? Anger promises strength, but delivers exhaustion. The deeper truth is this: you never control what others do. You only control your judgment about what they do. Epictetus, once a slave, was mocked, beaten, and insulted by masters. Yet he told his students, if someone reviles you, realize it is your judgment that they harm you, not their words. If you choose, you can dismiss the insult. Imagine that freedom. Imagine hearing an insult and feeling nothing but calm distance, as though the words were wind blowing past your ear. That is not weakness, that is mastery. Philosophers still debate whether Stoicism demands suppression of emotion or transformation of it. Did Marcus simply bottle up his feelings, or did he truly see the world in a way that made anger unnecessary? The answer may be both. The Stoics practiced seeing every offense as natural, predictable, and therefore undeserving of rage. If rain falls, do you shout at the sky? If someone insults you, why shout at ignorance? By changing perception, they dissolved anger before it was born. And here is the challenge to you: the next time you feel anger rising, pause. Feel the fire flicker, and then remember that it burns you first. Ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? Am I willing to give away my peace because of this? The very act of questioning breaks the chain. You reclaim choice where before you reacted blindly. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. To understand this better, let's go back to an ancient lesson from Marcus Aurelius, a lesson written not for the world, but whispered to himself in the solitude of his tent while Roman legions slept. He knew that an emperor who cannot master his anger will never master an empire. And you in your own life face the same truth. Section 2. Marcus Aurelius's calm throne. You picture Marcus Aurelius seated on the marble throne, a golden eagle carved above his head, senators murmuring around him, soldiers waiting outside the palace gates. From this position, any word he spoke could raise taxes, command executions, or shift the fate of an empire. And yet, when insulted, Marcus did not thunder back. When betrayed, he did not erupt with vengeance. He reminded himself the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. How is it that a man holding the greatest power on earth chose silence over fury? Imagine yourself in his place. A general who once swore loyalty secretly undermines you. The Senate, supposed to be your ally, whispers that you are too philosophical, too weak. Enemies mass at the empire's borders, demanding your focus, but within Rome your critics provoke you daily. One word of wrath from your mouth could end their lives, yet you lower your gaze and write in your journal. You remind yourself that anger is weakness disguised as strength. The historian Cassius Dio tells us that during the wars along the Danube, Marcus Aurelius endured betrayal from trusted friends and plots within Rome. He could have punished them with brutal swiftness, as emperors before him had done. Caligula had raged at insults and slaughtered those who mocked him. Nero, in a fit of paranoid fury, ordered the execution of his own mother. But Marcus, he allowed some to remain unpunished, believing their folly harmed themselves more than it harmed him. His rule was not one of constant purges, but of quiet endurance. It may sound almost impossible to live this way in modern life. Think of the office where colleagues sometimes steal credit for your work. Or think of your family where misunderstandings twist into accusations. Your instinct might be to defend yourself loudly, to lash out with words sharp enough to wound. Yet Marcus shows another way: let truth and time defend you. His calm throne was not weakness, it was armor. By refusing to be drawn into the chaos, he kept his judgment intact, and that was his true strength. The Stoic lesson here is not simply endurance, but perspective. Marcus believed that every insult or betrayal must be weighed against the scale of life itself. He would ask, will this matter when I am on my deathbed? Will this shake the stars in their courses? If the answer was no, then why give it power? And here you glimpse the Stoic secret. Anger feels like an emergency, but it is almost never about life and death. It is about pride, ego, or expectation. Marcus once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Scholars still debate how strictly he applied this principle. Could he really detach from personal slights as easily as his writings suggest? Or did he struggle as we all do, but leave us his victories on the page and hide his failures in silence? The truth may be that even an emperor wrestled with anger, but his greatness lay in returning again and again to reason. You walk beside him in your mind's eye. It is night in the Roman camp, the air sharp with the smoke of campfires. He holds his wax tablet, scratching lines that would never be published, never meant for anyone else. If anyone can refute me, show me I am mistaken in thought or deed, I will gladly change. For I seek the truth by which no one was ever truly harmed. Do you see the humility there? An emperor willing to admit error, willing to be corrected without rage. For anger shrinks the mind, but truth expands it. Now bring this back to your own life. When you are mocked, when your ideas are dismissed, when betrayal stings, you can sit on your own calm throne. You may not rule Rome, but you rule your mind. Picture yourself leaning back, breathing slowly, remembering that fury makes you a puppet of the moment, but calm gives you command. The throne is not marble, not gold. It is the space you create in your heart where anger has no seat. And so the lesson glides forward. If Marcus Aurelius, weighed down by empire and enemies, could choose calm, then you, without an empire to govern, can choose it too. But to see this clearly, you must listen to another Stoic voice, one forged not in palaces, but in slavery. Epictetus, who had every reason to rage, taught a discipline that made anger optional. His wisdom shows you that no insult has power unless you hand it the key. Section 3. Epictetus on insults. You imagine yourself in a crowded Roman marketplace, voices echoing, vendors calling out prices, and suddenly someone hurls an insult at you. Maybe they mock your appearance, your profession, or your voice. The words sting. Your first instinct is to turn, to lash back, to prove them wrong. But then you remember the teaching of Epictetus. If someone reviles you, realize that it is your judgment that they harm you, not their words. If you choose, you can dismiss the insult. Epictetus knew this truth better than anyone. Born into slavery, his body crippled by beatings from a cruel master, he lived a life that could have bred endless rage. Yet instead of letting fury rule him, he sharpened his mind into a fortress. Imagine the humiliation he endured, being treated as property, mocked, perhaps even spat upon. And still he told his students centuries later that no one has the power to insult you unless you hand them that power. The insult is like a thrown stone. It may land near your feet, but you decide whether to pick it up and wound yourself with it. In modern life, insults come differently. They appear in the form of online comments, sneers at work, whispers in school halls. You know the moments. Someone says you're not smart enough, not capable enough, not worthy. Your chest burns, your throat tightens. Yet if you pause and reflect, you see what Epictetus saw. The words are air. They are not pain, not injury, not truth. They are simply sounds that only hurt if you choose to believe they matter. This Stoic insight is radical. Think of how much of your energy is spent defending yourself against shadows. You rehearse comebacks in your head. You replay the insult at night. You let it echo long after the moment is gone. But Epictetus asks, why drink poison someone else mixed? Let the cup remain untouched. There is a story of Epictetus teaching a student who was furious at being mocked. He asked the student, "If a man called you an ass, would you be upset?" The student said yes. Epictetus pressed further. "But what if you are not an ass? Does the word change what you are? If a man says the sky is green, do you quarrel with him, or do you simply laugh at his blindness?" The student grew quiet. The lesson was simple: insults reveal more about the one who throws them than the one who receives them. Scholars still debate whether this teaching demands too much detachment. Can anyone truly remain unmoved by cruel words? Is it natural or even human to feel nothing? Perhaps the Stoics did not mean you must feel nothing at all, but rather that you must let the spark die before it becomes flame. Anger may rise, but reason can douse it if you recognize the illusion. Now think of Marcus Aurelius again, writing in his Meditations. He reminds himself, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. He echoes Epictetus here, showing how deeply the slave's wisdom influenced the emperor's calm. Two lives worlds apart, one bound by chains, the other crowned with laurel, And yet both knew the same truth: anger is optional, always born of your own judgment. Bring this home to your own experience. The next time someone hurls a harsh word at you, pause. Imagine the sound as nothing but wind. Let it pass by without catching it in your hands. Ask yourself, does this insult reveal truth about me or ignorance about them? If it is truth, then accept it as correction and grow wiser. If it is ignorance, then let it pass. Either way, you remain free. You see, the Stoics never denied that people can be cruel. They denied only that cruelty must chain your soul. And here lies your challenge: you cannot stop insults, but you can stop anger. You cannot command another's mouth, but you can command your own mind. This is what Epictetus gave his students, and what he gives you the power to decide whether you will ever again be wounded by words. And so the story turns. You have seen Marcus Aurelius on his throne of calm and Epictetus in the chains of slavery, both teaching that anger is weakness, not strength. But one more Stoic voice thunders against fury louder than any other. Seneca, with his essay On Anger, warns that rage is not only weakness, but madness. To understand why, you must walk into his words and see how fury destroys the one who clings to it. Section 4. Seneca's warning on fury. The philosopher Seneca called anger a brief madness. You sit with those words and feel their weight. Madness, loss of reason, blindness, the sudden storm that sweeps away judgment. Seneca, advisor to emperors, friend of the powerful, and yet a man who witnessed firsthand the ruin brought by uncontrolled fury, left us his great essay, De Ira, on anger. In it, he did not soften his tone. He warned that anger is the most hideous and frenzied of all emotions, a passion that drags even wise men to destruction. Imagine Rome under Nero, the emperor Seneca once advised. A ruler consumed by suspicion, lashing out at any perceived slight. When whispers reached his ears, he answered not with patience, but with blood. Even his own mother Agrippina fell victim to his rage. Seneca, who had tried to guide him, watched from within the palace as anger metastasized into cruelty, turning an empire into a place of fear. And so Seneca wrote with urgency, warning that to give in to anger even once is to invite chaos into your soul. He described anger as a fire that begins in the smallest spark, an insult, an inconvenience, a disappointment. If unchecked, it grows consuming, not only the one provoked, but all who stand nearby. It does not flare up against the guilty alone, Seneca cautioned, but against the innocent as well. Think of how often this proves true. A parent angry at work returns home and snaps at a child. A leader humiliated in debate directs fury at subordinates. Anger does not strike its true target. It spreads indiscriminately. And what of you? Recall the last time you lost your temper. Did you wound only the one who wronged you, or did others feel the heat as well? Did your words scorch relationships you later wished to preserve? Seneca's warning is timeless. Once you surrender to fury, you cannot choose where it lands. Yet here lies the Stoic paradox. Scholars still debate whether Seneca himself lived his teachings consistently. Some accuse him of hypocrisy, pointing to his wealth and political entanglements. Did he in private wrestle with the same fire he condemned? Likely so. But perhaps that is what makes his words enduring. They were not written by a man untouched by anger, but by one who saw its ruin within himself and around him, and begged his readers to resist. You close your eyes and imagine standing in the forum, insulted by a rival. You feel the surge within the rising heat in your chest. Seneca would tell you to pause, to recognize that this is the moment of danger. For reason still has a chance to intervene before passion seizes the throne. The greatest remedy for anger is delay, he wrote. Wait. Breathe. Let time rob the fury of its fuel. By postponing action, you take power back from the madness. History shows us examples on both sides. Achilles in the Iliad raged over an insult and abandoned his comrades, leading to needless death. Alexander the Great, drunk with fury, killed his closest friend Clytus in a fit of rage, then wept bitterly when reason returned. Contrast this with Marcus Aurelius, who, though surrounded by betrayal, endured without violence. One path leads to regret, the other to mastery. Think also of your modern world. A message arrives that offends you. Your hand hovers over the keyboard, ready to fire words you cannot retrieve. In that split second, Seneca whispers, "Wait. Walk away." The insult will not last, but your words will. The pause is your salvation. And here is the deeper question: is anger ever useful? Some argue it can inspire courage, drive justice, fuel resistance against evil. Even philosophers debate this point. Can righteous anger exist? Seneca's answer was sharp no. For anger is blind, and what begins as righteous quickly turns reckless. Justice requires clarity, not fire. Strength requires calm, not frenzy. You begin to see the pattern weaving through the Stoics. Marcus reminds you to expect insult. Epictetus tells you to dismiss it. And Seneca warns you that to embrace anger is to invite madness. 3 voices, 3 lives converging on one truth. Anger is not strength, it is slavery. And yet knowing this truth is not enough. To live it, you must practice. You must learn to pause, to catch yourself in the breath before the storm. Only then can reason step forward and guide your hand. The Stoics called this discipline prohairesis, the deliberate choice, and it is in the pause that your freedom lies. Section 5. The pause of reason. You walk through a dim Roman corridor, torches flickering against marble walls. Somewhere outside, soldiers shout orders, merchants bargain, children play in dusty streets. Inside your own chest, however, there is another battle, a spark rising into fire. This is the instant before anger takes hold. Seneca called this the point of no return. Yet he also said you always have a window, however brief, where reason can intervene. The Stoics placed immense value on that pause. Imagine this: a rival insults you in the forum. Your body reacts before your mind does. Your face flushes, your fists clench. The insult feels heavier than the marble columns around you. But here lies the discipline: do not act yet. Instead, breathe, delay, step back in thought. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, when you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and consider your own failings. That moment of turning inward creates the pause that separates wisdom from madness. The Stoics knew that anger thrives on speed. The faster you react, the less control you hold. Delay robs anger of its fuel. Seneca urged, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Even a single breath, a silent count of 3 can turn a storm into a breeze. Think of Epictetus teaching his students, when you are provoked, remember that you are not insulted, but that you are being tested. By reframing the moment, by pausing, you create space between stimulus and response. Consider the story of Cato the Younger, one of the Stoics admired for his discipline. Once at a public gathering, a man spat in his face. The crowd gasped, waiting for Cato's furious retaliation. Instead, he wiped his face calmly and said nothing. The insult belonged to the insulter, not to him. His pause was not weakness, it was strength magnified. Historians still debate whether such extreme self-control was natural to Cato or cultivated by years of Stoic practice. Yet the lesson remains: the pause preserved his dignity while the insulter lost his. Now bring this to your own time. A coworker takes credit for your idea. Your blood rises. You want to slam the table, shout, and expose them. But what if you pause? What if you let the moment pass and later, with calm reason, present the truth? Which path leaves you stronger, which leaves you ashamed? The Stoics would tell you the pause is not about suppression, it is about strategy. Anger is like charging blindly into battle. The pause lets you survey the field before acting. The philosophical debate remains, is anger ever useful if harnessed quickly? Some argue it sharpens action, that it gives courage. But the Stoics would answer, true courage arises not from fire, but from clarity. Fire consumes, clarity directs. Anger clouds judgment even when it seems to help. The pause ensures you act from strength, not from frenzy. Think of Marcus Aurelius again. Surrounded by betrayal, enduring ceaseless war, he wrote in Meditations, "The best way of avenging yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer." That sentence could only be written in the pause between offense and action, between pain and retaliation. He coached himself nightly in that space, creating distance between insult and response. Now test yourself. The next time irritation rises, a delay in traffic, a sharp word from a stranger, catch it in that delicate pause. Ask, is this worth my peace? Let your judgment cool before your tongue moves. You will feel the difference, like holding back a horse at full gallop and realizing you control its reins. The pause of reason is not absence of emotion. It is the recognition that you are not your anger. You are the one who chooses. And by pausing, you give your higher self the seat of command. This is not denial of passion, it is dominion over it. From Marcus's calm throne, to Epictetus's dismissal of insults, to Seneca's warning of madness, all Stoic roads lead here, the breath before the storm. For in that breath lies your freedom. And from here the path deepens, because if anger always grows from things outside your control, then mastery of it requires a new kind of vision. You must learn to separate what is yours to command from what belongs to fate. Section 6. Control versus externals. You stand at the edge of a Roman battlefield. Dust rises, soldiers wait in tense silence, and messengers hurry with news of delays, betrayals, or sudden storms. Imagine being the commander, your plans falling apart. Anger surges, why can't others do their duty? Why must fate interfere again? Yet this is where Stoicism sharpens into clarity. You cannot control the storm, only your response to it. Epictetus divided life into two categories: what is within your control and what is not. Within your control, your thoughts, your choices, your actions. Outside your control, other people's behavior, fortune, illness, death. He said, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle: some things are within our control and some things are not. Anger then is born when you confuse the two. You rage because you demand mastery over what belongs to fate. Think of Marcus Aurelius surrounded by plagues, wars, and endless petitions from citizens. He could not control the disease sweeping his empire, nor the treachery of allies, nor the storms that halted his armies. But he could control his judgment. You have power over your mind, not outside events, he wrote. Realize this, and you will find strength. That sentence was not theory for him, it was survival. Now consider your own life. The traffic jam that traps you, the rude comment at work, the failed plan you labored over, all of these lie outside your control. Yet how quickly you grasp at them, as if by raging you could bend reality. Do you see how futile this is? The car does not move faster because you slam the wheel. The colleague does not grow kinder because you shout. The plan does not mend because you sulk. In each case, your anger proves your confusion. The Stoics insisted that anger is not caused by events, but by expectations. You expected traffic to flow, people to respect you, plans to succeed. When reality diverges from your expectation, you flare. But the world never promised to meet your terms. Marcus reminded himself daily, do not expect figs in winter. Do not demand people act without fault. If you release the demand, anger dissolves. Scholars still debate whether this teaching makes Stoicism too passive. If nothing outside is yours to control, should you simply accept injustice or cruelty? The Stoics would answer no. You act where you can with justice, courage, discipline, and wisdom. But you do not rage at what lies beyond your reach. Seneca noted that a captain cannot calm the sea, but he can steer his ship with skill. To curse the waves is folly. To set the sails is wisdom. Consider a modern example. You pour months into a project only for circumstances to change and your work to be discarded. Anger boils wasted effort, unfair treatment. But the Stoic would tell you the labor itself was within your control, the outcome was not. The value lies in the discipline you practiced, the skills you sharpened, not in whether others accepted or rejected it. In this light, nothing is wasted. History gives us another striking image, the Roman general Pompey, whose ships were caught in a terrible storm. Sailors begged him to delay the voyage. He replied, "Sail we must." He knew the seas could not be commanded, but the duty remained. To rage at the storm would waste strength. To steer despite it showed mastery. And here you test yourself. When anger rises, ask, is this within my control? If yes, act with calm strength. If no, release it. Why hurl your peace against the wall of fate? You are not diminished by surrendering what was never yours. You are freed. The fire of anger shrinks when you stop feeding it with impossible demands. And so one by one, the Stoics remove its fuel. First, expect insult. Second, dismiss it. Third, pause. And now remember the boundary control versus externals. From here, you must uncover another truth, that much of your anger hides in pride, in shame, in the desire to appear strong. If you wish to disarm it completely, you must go deeper into the roots of pride itself. Section 7. Shame, Pride, and Power. You picture yourself walking through the Roman Senate. Senators whisper, some with admiration, others with envy. One man mutters a cutting remark about you. Another laughs behind your back. Anger rises, but beneath it, if you look honestly, what do you find? Not just irritation at their words, but pride, the desire to be honored, to be seen as strong, to have your name untarnished. The Stoics understood this hidden engine of rage. Anger feeds on wounded pride. Marcus Aurelius admitted this to himself in Meditations. Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others, he wrote. For you lose the opportunity to do something useful when you concern yourself with what the neighbor is doing and why, and with what he says. Why did he remind himself of this? Because even an emperor was not immune to the sting of gossip. His lesson is yours as well. Anger often begins when you cannot bear that someone thinks less of you. Epictetus was blunt. If a man tells you you are ignorant and you are angered, then you are truly ignorant. For you have chosen anger over inquiry. He wanted you to see how pride enslaves you. An insult exposes a nerve. You flare not because of the words themselves, but because your ego demands to appear flawless. But if you lower pride, the insult falls harmless. Humility disarms anger like water quenching flame. History is filled with examples of prideful rage. Think of Alexander the Great, who in drunken anger killed his friend Clitus after Clitus mocked his achievements. Pride could not endure the slight, and so he lashed out only to weep bitterly later when reason returned. Compare this with Socrates, who when mocked in public smiled and said, "Yes, they are right. I do not know." The one enslaved by pride destroyed friendship. The one armed with humility turned insult into laughter. But here lies a debate. Scholars still wonder, can pride ever be healthy? Is it not good to take pride in your work, your reputation, your dignity? The Stoics distinguished between pride in virtue, honorable, and pride in appearances, dangerous. If you take pride in living wisely, in acting justly, no insult can touch it. But if you cling to pride in wealth, looks, or status, every insult becomes a dagger. For these things do not belong to you fully. They are gifts of fortune, easily mocked, easily lost. Seneca captured this truth when he wrote, "No one can harm the wise man, for he values only what is his own." What did he mean? That if you anchor your worth in virtue alone, then shame, insult, and dishonor cannot move you. But if you anchor it in pride and the fragile approval of others, then anger will chase you endlessly. Think of your own life. How many of your angers are truly about justice, and how many are about pride? The colleague who dismisses you, do you rage because truth was harmed, or because your image was bruised? The stranger who mocks you, do you burn because harm was done, or because your ego refuses to bend? In these moments, humility becomes armor. To laugh at yourself is to rob anger of its weapon. The Romans told a story of Cato the Younger, known for his iron self-control. Once a man publicly insulted him in court, calling him a drunkard. Instead of rage, Cato laughed and replied that indeed he enjoyed a cup of wine, but never to the harm of the republic. The court laughed with him. The insult lost its sting. By choosing humility, Cato turned what could have sparked anger into a moment of dignity, and so you see the pattern deepening. Anger does not simply arise from insult or misfortune, it sprouts from pride and the terror of shame. If you let go of that pride, anger has nothing to cling to. Imagine yourself like a smooth wall against which no spear can stick. The insult slides down. The shame finds no hold. This is your practice. Lower pride, embrace humility, and remember that dignity lies in virtue, not in reputation. Then anger, finding no root in you, withers. And once you see this, you can take one step further, turn every offense into training, every irritation into exercise for the soul. For the Stoics taught that daily life itself is your gymnasium for patience and strength. Section 8. Turning offense into training. The streets of Rome were not quiet. They were filled with arguments, vendors shouting, carts blocking the way, neighbors quarreling over water or land. If you lived there, you would have faced daily irritations at every turn. And yet the Stoics urged you to treat these irritations not as enemies, but as opportunities for training. Marcus Aurelius told himself, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. Even a petty annoyance could become your exercise in patience. Think of Epictetus instructing his students. A man jostles you in the street. Instead of anger, he said you can treat it as practice in bearing offense without harm. He compared life to an athlete's training ground. Difficulties show a person's character, he declared. So when trouble comes, remember God has matched you with a tough sparring partner. To him, every irritation was a chance to test the muscles of the soul. History gives us Cato again, enduring endless mockery from political enemies. Once during a speech, someone spat on him. Instead of striking back, Cato simply wiped his face and continued speaking. The crowd gasped, but he had turned the offense into an exercise, proof that anger could not command him. By refusing to be provoked, he grew stronger. The one who insulted him remained small, but Cato's dignity expanded. Now bring this to your own life. You wake up to find your internet not working, your phone buzzing with complaints, traffic snarled, someone cutting in line at the store. These small frictions accumulate and anger tempts you to see them as enemies. But what if you reframed them as training? What if each annoyance was a practice round a way to strengthen patience? You would no longer waste the day fighting shadows. You would use them as weights in your mental gym. Seneca insisted, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Anger is often born from resistance, the refusal to accept the reality of obstacles. But the Stoic transforms the obstacle into fuel. This is not passivity. It is the art of turning frustration into discipline. The traffic jam becomes practice in patience. The rude remark becomes practice in detachment. The delay becomes practice in endurance. Each time you succeed, you grow stronger. There is, of course, a debate here. Some argue that this view risks trivializing real offenses. Is a cruel insult the same as a bump in the street? Can injustice be reduced to training? The Stoics would reply that scale does not change principle. Whether the offense is small or great, the power remains with you to turn it into anger or into training. This does not mean you do nothing against injustice, but that you act without rage, for rage clouds judgment and ruins justice. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his military tent, reminded himself, "To be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved and the raging of the sea falls around it." Picture this in your own mind. Every irritation is a wave, every insult another splash of water. You can choose to be tossed about, or you can choose to be the rock, still firm, immovable. Now test this. Tomorrow, when someone delays you, cuts you off, ignores your effort, or mocks you, treat it as sparring. Smile inwardly and think, here is today's exercise. You may stumble, you may still flare up, but each attempt strengthens the muscle of restraint. Over time, your endurance grows until what once enraged you now hardly moves you at all. And so the journey continues. You have learned to expect insult, to dismiss it, to pause before reacting, to separate control from externals, to lower pride, and now to train with irritations. But there is one more step that deepens the transformation: forgiveness. Not the weak kind that forgets, but the Stoic kind that chooses to rise above, not out of surrender, but out of strength. For to forgive is to prove you are untouchable. Section 9. Forgiveness as Stoic strength. You walk into a Roman court where tempers flare. A man has wronged another, debts unpaid, insults, exchanged fists almost raised. The crowd waits for vengeance, for harsh words and punishment. Yet the Stoic rises and speaks calmly of forgiveness, not as surrender, but as strength. Seneca wrote, "How much better it is to heal a wrong than to avenge it, for the one is done to your credit, the other to your enemies." To forgive in Stoic eyes is not to let weakness prevail, but to prove that anger no longer holds you. Consider Marcus Aurelius, who endured betrayal not just from distant enemies, but from those close to him. One general conspired against him, a man Marcus had trusted. The betrayal was discovered, the punishment could have been swift and brutal. But Marcus spared him, letting the man live. Why? Because Marcus believed that cruelty only mirrored the wrong. By forgiving, he stood above the insult. The general's treachery did not make Marcus less. Forgiveness made him greater. This idea unsettles many. You might ask, does forgiveness not excuse injustice? Should we not fight against wrongs? Scholars have debated this tension for centuries. The Stoics drew a careful line. They did not teach that forgiveness means inaction. Justice must still be upheld, wrongs corrected, society protected. But forgiveness, they said, must govern the heart. You punish when duty requires, but without anger. You correct, but you do not hate. As Marcus wrote, the wrongdoer has done you wrong. What is left to do, what is just not what anger dictates. Epictetus explained it with sharp clarity. If someone steals from you, you may seek justice, but you do not add the theft of your peace to the theft of your goods. When someone does wrong, he said, blame not him, but the ignorance that led him. Forgive the person, oppose the ignorance. To him, the wrongdoer was like a blind man stumbling. Do you grow angry at the blind, or do you guide them away from the ditch? Forgiveness, then, is not passivity, it is mastery. It frees you from the cycle of anger and revenge. Think of how many conflicts spiral because neither side will yield. A word answered with sharper words, a blow with harsher blows, until all are consumed. The Stoic who forgives breaks the chain. He steps out of the cycle, proving he cannot be bound by another's malice. History warns us of the opposite. Look at the endless feuds of medieval Europe, where families slaughtered one another for generations over a single insult or injury. Pride refused forgiveness, and blood ran for centuries. Contrast that with a story from early Christianity, deeply influenced by Stoic thought. When wronged, some followers of the philosophy turned faith chose forgiveness, stunning their enemies with calm endurance. Their power lay not in striking back, but in refusing to be dragged down. And in your life, where can this be practiced? Someone lies about you, cheats you, disrespects you. Your first instinct is anger, perhaps revenge. But pause. Ask, what do I gain by wounding back? What do I lose if I forgive? Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or exposing yourself again to harm. It means you choose not to let hatred live inside you. You act with justice where needed, but you do not drink the poison of rage. Seneca warned that revenge is costly. It forces you to become like the one you hate. Forgiveness is economical. It keeps your dignity intact. And Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every night that wrongdoers act out of ignorance, not true malice. If you can see this, forgiveness becomes easier. For who rages at a child for stumbling, who burns with fury at the sick for coughing, the wrong is real, but the judgment is yours. So here is your test. Forgive not because you must, but because you can. Let the act itself remind you of your power. You stand above the offense untouched. And as you do, you approach the Stoic ideal, a mind so steady, it becomes like a fortress, where no insult, no betrayal, no cruelty can shake its walls. And it is to this image, a tranquil fortress, that we now turn. Section 10. A tranquil fortress. Picture a Roman fortress at dawn. Stone walls rise tall, unmoved by the wind. The cries of soldiers echo against their surface, and beyond those walls enemies rage and plot. Yet inside calm reigns. This is the image the Stoics give you for your own mind, a fortress no insult, delay, or cruelty can penetrate. To never be angry again is not to live without provocation, but to build such walls of reason and virtue that provocation finds no entry. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "Be like the rock against which the waves break, but it stands firm and the raging of the sea falls still around it." Anger is the wave. It will always crash against you from others, from events, from fortune. But your fortress is not shaken because you know the wave cannot touch the stone within. Marcus lived this while leading armies in bitter wars along the Danube. Surrounded by enemies, struck by plague, even betrayed by friends, he returned to this vision. He was the rock, unmoved, steady. Inside this fortress, you understand what the Stoics all taught. Seneca warned that anger is madness, a storm that destroys indiscriminately. Epictetus reminded you that insults only harm if you pick them up. Marcus told you that pride and fear of shame are the roots of fury, and that your only true power lies in your judgment. Each of these bricks builds the wall. The fortress is not cold withdrawal, it is a place of peace where reason governs, not rage. Scholars sometimes debate, is such a fortress desirable? Does it risk becoming too detached, too inhuman? The Stoics answered by showing that it does not mean indifference to justice or compassion. You still act, you still correct wrongs, you still fight when duty calls, but from clarity, not from fury. A fortress is not a prison. It is protection. Inside its walls, you preserve your freedom to act wisely, unchained by anger. Think of history's lessons. Achilles, consumed by wrath, became a tool of his own rage, dragging corpses in vengeance, only to end broken. Alexander, furious in drunken pride, killed his friend and carried the wound of regret forever. Contrast them with Marcus Aurelius, who forgave betrayers and ruled with calm. Or with Cato, who endured insults with dignity untouched. The fortress holds, while unchecked anger collapses kingdoms and friendships alike. Now imagine your own fortress. Tomorrow someone will insult you. Someone will test your patience. Life will send delays, betrayals, frustrations. Will you let the waves drag you, or will you let them crash harmlessly against your wall? This is not theory, it is practice. You build your fortress daily, brick by brick, in every pause, in every act of humility, in every choice to forgive, in every dismissal of insult. Over time, its walls rise higher, its gates stronger, until anger finds no foothold within you. And when at last you walk through life unshaken, you see the truth: anger never made you strong. It only made you brittle. Calm was strength all along. Forgiveness was strength. Endurance was strength. The fortress was within you from the beginning. So here you stand within your tranquil fortress, a soul untouched by fury. The waves still crash, the world still rages, but you, calm, steady, immovable, have mastered yourself. And in that mastery, you will never be angry again. Now let the pacing soften. The torches of Rome fade, the clamor of battle quiets, and the fortress of your mind becomes still. You sit within it, walls of calm around you, the night sky stretched above. The teachings you have walked through of Marcus, Epictetus, Seneca settle not as rules, but as whispers in the dark. You breathe slowly, and with each breath, you feel the fire of anger recede, replaced by the steady glow of reason. Imagine tomorrow's world. You wake, and already the day presents you with trials, delays, words that sting, moments where pride trembles. But instead of flaring, you pause. You remind yourself, this is not within my control. Or this insult reveals nothing unless I let it. Or forgiveness makes me untouchable. And with each reminder, the fortress grows stronger. The waves lose their power. You may stumble. You may still feel the flicker of rage. But each time you practice, you return to calm more quickly. This is the discipline the Stoics promised, not that you will never feel provoked, but that you will never again be enslaved by it. Anger may knock, but it finds no open door. So as you drift now in thought, let the words of Marcus echo gently. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is already yours. It does not roar. It rests patient, steady, like the stone fortress unshaken by storms. And with that, you close your eyes. The world beyond still moves, still rages, still demands. But you are at peace, anchored, tranquil. You carry within you a calm no insult, no betrayal, no cruelty can touch. and so quietly you become untouchable.